Welcome everybody to this week's homework review video for Year 5 English. It's Block 4, Week 4. This week you were asked to complete 2 activities on the CGP 11 Plus online, which was a comprehension of text 10 and also a spelling, punctuation and grammar mixed practice test. There was also 2 activities to complete in the Collins English Quick Practice book.
In each question, circle the letter below the group of words containing a spelling mistake, and if there is no mistake, circle the letter N. And the example is the people at the festival enjoyed the party atmosphere as the moon rose high overhead. And you will notice the spelling of people was incorrect and should be spelt this way, P-E-O-P-L-E. So ideally, we'd like you to complete this in 6 minutes if possible. And please just make a note of the time that it does take you if it's different. So, number 1, the answers are also in your books for you to check the correct spellings as we go along. The sport of scuba diving requires a lot of sophisticated and expensive equipment. Equipment just having 1 P. I'll type some of these up as we go along as well. Helps if I type them correctly. So, equipment. Nadine's stomach rolled as the small boat lurched violently in the stormy waves. There is no mistake on that line. And number 3 is correspond. The designer attempted to create a collection which corresponded with the season. That's a double R. And 12th is spelt this way. The 12th and 13th entries in the dictionary were in an incorrect order. John suffered some light bruising on his thigh, but otherwise escaped unhurt. There are no mistakes on that line. Jack wished to accompany his wife to the doctor, but she preferred to go alone. That's just a single P there. Number 7. The unusual behaviour of the monkey had piqued the curiosity of the researcher. And the winner of the lottery understandably wished to keep his identity concealed. That's a soft C sound there, so it sounds like an S, but it's spelt with a C. As always, when you're doing your homework tasks, if you find words that are new and interesting, you may wish to write them down in your word and meaning book, such as piqued, for example. That means that the behaviour of the monkey had sparked the curiosity of the researcher. So have a look for the word piqued in a dictionary and write it in either what dictionary terms or even your own words in your word and meaning book. It's good to keep a record and have a collection of words in your personal dictionaries. Number 9, foreign investment poured into the country following the successful election. This is D, and the word is successful, spelt with 2 C's. Yeah. Sometimes you look at a word and it's right and you think it doesn't look it. Most of the bikers had used their vehicles to block access to the pedestrian area. That's a double C, access. There are no mistakes for lines 11 and 12, however. The young girl implored her parents to let her take advantage of the rare opportunity, and the architect was very determined to deliver the project on time and under budget. And that completes test 26. We're going to move on to test 29, which is on pages 72 to 73, and that is also spellings, with 12 questions to complete in 6 minutes ideally. So first of all, we have Henry's constant wailing, pleading and complaining failed to achieve the desired effect. This should be effect. Effect is a noun, affect is a verb. Okay, and that's something that you may need to learn the difference between. To affect something or the effect of something. So in this case, the desired effect is a noun. The maverick scientist had developed a revolutionary cure for a rare form of cancer. Revolutionary is spelt with a U, and you can see there's an O in the word. Bridget excelled at languages and mathematics, struggled with other subjects. Excelled has a double L. 4 and 5 had no mistakes. Immediately after handing in his resignation, Daniel went to have a drink with his friends. The athlete pulled a muscle in the warm-up and was therefore unable to participate. And number 6, Zara finally accomplished her dream of purchasing a yacht to sail around the world. That has a double C in accomplished. Number 7, one of the most helpful books you can use when learning a new language is a dictionary, ARY. No mistakes for number 8. Each member of the team was a skilled individual, but they did not gel well together. Number 9, Ruth's impressive achievements definitely helped convince those who had doubted her. This one often causes confusion, definitely. And I've accidentally put an extra I in there. My typing skills whilst talking seem to be needing some work. Definitely, there we go. The board members were altogether dissatisfied with the executive's performance. Now you have to look closely at the words. Altogether, if you look at it closely, it's actually got 2 L's in the example and it only needs 1. The bees in the colony systematically pollinated every flower within a mile radius. This needs 2 L's and it only had 1. And landing an aircraft is a tricky task, especially in adverse weather conditions. There were no mistakes on this line. Okay, moving on to comprehension. Skipping back in your book to test 17, this was on page 43, 44 and 45. So you were given 10 minutes to complete this test with 10 questions. Your 10 minutes would also include the time it takes to read the text as well. Read the passage and answer the questions that follow. In each question, circle the letter next to the correct answer. So it's multiple choice. In the example, Adam applauded the diver. Let me start that again. Adam applauded the diver as she stepped onto the podium to collect her Olympic silver medal. In which sport did the athlete complete? And of course it's diving, because we know that she was a diver, not a driver. Let's have a look at the text extract. This is from Life of Pi by Yann Martel, which is a book and that was then made into a film. And it's a very interesting story that really gets the reader thinking. I'm not sure what age the book is aimed at. It might be an adult novel, so you might want to just have a look at that, just in terms of the language used. Some of it might be tricky to understand if it's aimed at an older age group. However, if you're a confident reader, you might like to read it. And then, of course, there is also the film. I read this book when I was at university, and I've seen the film as well, though I haven't seen it for a long time. But it's about a boy who is involved in the sinking of a ship and stranded on a rowing boat with nothing but a tiger to keep him company in the middle of the ocean. And I won't say anything more than that, but it's a very interesting story, certainly. It was a huge zoo, spread over numberless acres, big enough to require a train to explore it, though it seemed to get smaller as I grew older, train included. Now it's so small it fits in my head. You must imagine a hot and humid place, bathed in sunshine and bright colours. The riot of flowers is incessant. There are trees, shrubs, and climbing plants in profusion. Peepals, gulmars, flames of the forest, red silk cottons, jacarandas, mangoes, jackfruits, and many others that would remain unknown to you if they didn't have neat labels at their feet. There are benches. On these benches you see men sleeping, stretched out, or couples sitting. Suddenly, amidst the tall and slim trees up ahead, you notice 2 giraffes quietly observing you. The sight is not the last of your surprises. The next moment you are startled by a furious outburst coming from a great troop of monkeys, only outdone in volume by the shrill cries of strange birds. You come to a turnstile. You distractedly pay a small sum of money. You move on. You see a low wall. What can you expect beyond a low wall? Certainly not a shallow pit with 2 mighty Indian rhinoceros. But that is what you find. And when you turn your head, you see the elephant that was there all along, so big you didn't notice it. And in the pond, you realise those are hippopotamuses floating in the water. The more you look, the more you see. To me, it was paradise on earth. I have nothing but the fondest memories of growing up in a zoo. I lived the life of a prince. What king's son had such vast, luxurious grounds to play about? My alarm clock during my childhood was a pride of lions. They were no Swiss clocks, but the lions could be counted upon to roar their heads off between 5:30 and 6 every morning. Breakfast was punctuated by the shrieks and cries of howler monkeys, birds, and Moluccan cockatoos. I left for school under the benevolent gaze not only of mother, but also of bright-eyed otters and burly American bison, and stretching and yawning orangutans. I looked up as I ran under some trees, otherwise peafowl might excrete on me. Better to go by the trees that sheltered the large colonies of fruit bats. The only assault there at that early hour was the bats' discordant concerts of squeaking and chattering. On my way out, I might stop by to look at some shiny frogs, glazed bright green, or yellow and deep blue, or brown and pale green. Or it might be birds that caught my attention. Pink flamingos, or black swans, or one-waffled cassowaries, or something smaller, silver diamond doves, Cape glossy starlings, peach-faced lovebirds, orange-fronted parakeets. Not likely that the elephants, the seals, the big cats, or the bears would be up and doing, but the baboons, the macaques, the mangabeys, the gibbons, the deer, the tapirs, the llamas, the giraffes, the mongooses were early risers. This is a lovely extract from near the beginning of the book where he's talking about his home life in the zoo. The description is so rich. It's abundant with its use of powerful vocabulary, adjectives, expanded noun phrases. And certainly for me, that really brings up a powerful imagery of what it must have been like in the zoo. So this is a great text to read as an example of ways to describe when you're writing your own pieces of creative writing. Have a look together at some of the answers. So what was the weather like in the zoo? And we've got 5 options there. And you may be able to answer this one straight away because none of the other options sound like it would have been likely. So we can use elimination when we're answering multiple choice comprehension questions to get rid of answers that we know aren't right. It was hot and humid, and it does tell us this specifically in the text. You must imagine a hot and humid place. Then number 2, Which of these quotes refers to the abundant plants in the zoo? And that was B. The riot of flowers is incessant. Now, if you weren't sure which one of these quotes was the right one, you could go back and find it because it does tell you which line or lines each quote is on. So which of these quotes refers to the abundant plants in the zoo? That means lots of plants. And it was the riot of flowers is incessant on lines 3 and 4. And that's a brilliant word, incessant, to describe the fact that there were lots of flowers and plants. What are jacarandas? So we would go back to the text and we would find that word and look at how it's used in context to help us distinguish its meaning. There are trees, shrubs, and climbing plants in profusion. And then it goes on to list examples. So we know that jacarandas is a type of plant because we've just been talking about there being an abundance of plant life. And then it's going on to describe what some of these were. And number 4, what surpassed the frenzy and sound of the monkeys? And this was the shrill cries of birds. So, you are startled by a furious outburst coming from a great troop of monkeys, only outdone in volume by the shrill cries of strange birds. So that comes next. One at a time, it's easier that way. Number 5, what was the purpose of the turnstile in the zoo? And you might know this already. It was a barrier to prevent entry to the zoo without payment. I know London Zoo have these particular turnstiles that you go through a gate and you have to push it around to get through once you've paid your entrance fee. And it mentions the turnstile straight after the cry of the strange birds. You come to a turnstile, you distractedly pay a small sum of money, you move on. So he's describing, without even thinking, you pay your money and you can open the gate. Why do you think the author called the zoo a paradise on earth? And there are some options there. Let's go and look at line 16, where it tells us that phrase, and we can see why the author used that phrase. So line 16, to me, it was paradise on earth. And then he goes on to say, I have nothing but the fondest memories of growing up in a zoo. And that was one of our options, 6A. The author had fond memories of his time at the zoo. When did the lions roar? They roared every morning, and he describes them as being an alarm clock. The lions could be counted upon to roar their heads off between 5:30 and 6 every morning. So they were early risers, these lions. And finally, the last set of questions. So which animal did the author not see in the morning? This was seals. Seals were not mentioned. So he's talked about the lions. He's talking about the howler monkeys, birds, and Moluccan cockatoos. He mentions the otters, American bison, orangutans. He looks up into the trees and describes the peafowl and the fruit bats. And there are other birds, flamingos. I'm not going to go through all of them again, but seals are not mentioned. Now, question number 9. What is the meaning of the word furious? Line 9, as it is used in the passage. Now, again, you might know this one already. Looking at the other options, furious, we know, means angry. And let's just look at it in line 9 as well. You are startled by a furious outburst coming from a great troop of monkeys. So the monkeys are angry. Perhaps they're hungry. And finally, What does the phrase benevolent gaze on line 21 mean? Again, you may know the word benevolent, and if you didn't before now, this is another good one to write in your word and meaning books. These are so important to be constantly building up. It means kind regard. And let's have a look at it. I left school under the benevolent gaze not only of mother, but also of, and continues to go describe the animals. So his mother is going to be looking at him with kindness. She's not likely to be curious or inquisitive, though some of the animals might be. But he's talking about his mother and the animals looking at him in the same way. So benevolent means kind regard. But as always, if you do come across some new vocabulary when you're completing your home learning tasks, you can use a dictionary to look them up. And that brings us to the end of our comprehension spelling video. Well done, everybody, and we will see you next time for week 5. Bye for now.